Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of everybody being here today, and I'd like to comment on how do we make this go? Sorry. That one. Forwards. Okay, great. Go back. Thank you. All right, sorry about that. There we go. So, Gencanna was formed a number of years ago. We really believe very strongly in our farming roots. We look around this room today and we see a whole massive amount of CBD resellers, people making nice branding and packaging, but there's not a lot of farmers. Do we have any farmers out here right now? Anybody in farming? One. Thank you. Thank you. Hemp is coming here soon. We're grateful for that. Understanding the proper chain of custody and proper compliance in the food products that we make is really important. So at Gencanna, we've made this confidence in our compliance the bedrock of our business. We started from virtually nothing in Kentucky 5 years ago, and now we have over 175 employees. We have a bunch of experience from the cannabis industry that has translated very well into the Kentucky agriculture strength, if you will. The former tobacco farmers in Kentucky have been absolutely amazing in terms of us being able to move our hemp forward. So, I don't know if you all are aware of the American hemp story, but there have been a lot of people, Mr. Jack Hare right at the top, who have been activists moving hemp forward for a great number of years. Hemp was grown all over America, but especially in Kentucky 100 years ago, 70 years ago, and then the prohibition happened, and it's been installed 5 years ago. For a lot of people, they think that Kentucky is a very strange place for the modern movement of hemp in the US and perhaps globally to have evolved. It's not, because it was grown in Kentucky previously. So what happened was that some gentlemen from Kentucky, some very important people, including US Senate Leader Mitch McConnell, Senator Rand Paul, Congressman James Comer, former Agriculture Commissioner, they moved the hemp mission forward with the Farm Bill of 2014. This was vitally important. This little bit of verbiage right here, in Kentucky, they don't write a lot of language in their bills. It's amazing, because this allowed us to make a federally compliant and legal product on our farms, and then and through our processing and through our end market sales. So this changed everything for us. What are we really talking about? Hemp is the underpinning for everything that we do with regard to CBD. And it's really just a legal definition in cannabis. Hemp is the part of cannabis with the scary part removed. The part that frightens legislators, law enforcement, regulators, parents, doctors, researchers, is the THC. We're not going to tell you that THC isn't helpful. It is, and it's very useful. However, in order to make a federally legal, very compliant, internationally shippable product, removing the THC really changes everything. It allows us to support local farmers. It allows those farmers to support local businesses. I'm not aware of anywhere in the world where agriculture hasn't been suffering. I've not yet met a farmer who said, wow, this is the best ever in their farming and their commodity production. Hemp has a mechanism for changing that, and changing that very dramatically for farmers. So, this is Mr. Gary Schell. Gary has been with us for 5 years. When we first met him and walked into his fields, his son wouldn't even get off his tractor and talk to us because of the taboo nature of hemp. Now he's an employee, one of our best, our very best people. So, sorry. Here's the whole point. This is a natural product. The CBD that is derived from hemp is a natural product. Why is it grown in warehouses or even in greenhouses? Why isn't it grown outdoors everywhere? This is the future, and it's going to come internationally in a massive way. It's easily done when you remove the THC. Corn, soybeans, other agricultural commodities and crops also do not contain THC. Hemp doesn't need to contain THC. In fact, we just announced about 4 weeks ago that we have a patentable new genetic with 0.0% THC. This is fundamentally important to farmers. Farmers do not want to grow crops that may not be compliant. Law enforcement doesn't want the farmers in their area growing crops that are not compliant. This matters a whole lot. The ability to have a positive impact on rural economic development is at the basis of American hemp legislation, American hemp regulation. U.S. Department of Agriculture is becoming involved now since the Farm Bill of 2018 has recently passed. This is fundamental, and it's all based on farmers farming a lucrative crop. So, what do I mean? Well, here's what we're spending. We made a little mistake on our slide here. We did this a couple months ago, and in the interim, our planning and engineering guys have decided that instead of us with our projected $40 million in investment in infrastructure, drying, extraction, refining, processing, instead of 40 million, we're already up and looking at $80 million worth of spending in a rural part of Kentucky. This is very phenomenal and very important. What matters is that we're spending money to create jobs. Sorry, obviously not very good at this. There we go. So the jobs are what really matters, and this underpins everything everybody is doing here and the path forward for the ease of the regulatory environment. If you can tie your business, your booth, you're selling your CBD, back to farmers farming and rural communities doing better with more jobs, that makes all the difference in the world. I promise you, you can convince even the most conservative of politicians and regulators that this is a good thing. And this is what we're doing in Kentucky. We're one of many. The hemp army, if you will, is forming, and it's forming on the farm. It's coming, and it's going to be absolutely awesome when we get going. So, what does Gencanna do? We have a number of trusted farmers that we've worked with for a number of years. We have a lot more who want to join. We insist, if you're going to farm with us, you're going to use our genetics. We want compliance all the time. We want high CBD cultivars. It's not quite legal to use these in Europe or in UK at this point in time, but it's going to come because your regulators and your governments will want to catch up with what we're able to do in the US and other parts of the world very, very quickly. We provide our farmers with the recipe, with SOPs. We know that very few people have experience farming hemp. We understand that, and we will work with people who will work with us. So we provide our farmers with basically plants, instructions, guidance, assistance, nutritional supports. The great thing about hemp is there's no labeling for any fungicides, herbicides, or pesticides. We're forced to use organic growing techniques, and that is awesome. This is the way this is supposed to be, right? And farmers really want to learn how to treat the soil better, how to treat the plants better, so that their end crop is much better. So we're even to the point in the United States now where crop insurance is coming. The US government is mandated to provide crop insurance for hemp farmers over the next couple years. This is going to change everything. Prices are going to come down pretty substantially into the future because of the commoditization of hemp and CBD production from hemp. So, am I? That one? Okay. So we just heard Tim Phillips up here talking about the potential demand for CBD. He's absolutely correct. You'd be surprised by the quality and level of interest from people in this building this weekend from major companies and small companies. And everybody is concerned in a professional way about being able to have an excellent final product that has a chain of custody and compliance all the way back through the process. I know a lot of people are eager to jam out a product and to put a label and sell some CBD online or what have you. I promise you, if you make the time and you invest in understanding where your sources of your products are coming from, in understanding how you can have proper QA, QC, proper third-party testing, it's vitally important. In the UK, you have some really awesome folks and some great international intelligence. There are brands that are emerging. NutriCrest is one. If you have a look at some of these brands where the manufacturing process is really about the compliance and the science that is derived from the farmed crop, you'll understand that these are the brands that are more likely to survive into the future because they can demonstrate and prove where they came from. They can survive a recall, and you know that their quality is demonstrated and proven. So this is very vitally important to the CBD business, in our opinion. And when we talk about that, what do we really mean? We mean that if we're going to have this great CBD product, we need to be able to start to show some of those economics that Tim started talking about. So we see the huge amount of revenues and huge amount of spending and infrastructure. We see the jobs. The important thing about these slides is not the numbers, it's the big slope that's happening up. This is a trend that is going to continue for a while. So at Gencanna, we make bulk products, bulk CBD oils and isolates, liquid emulsions, topical creams, capsules, ingestibles, vape products, very important category. We're continually improvising and devising new product categories, but we will not sell anything until we can demonstrate very excellent quality. So there are a lot of people who have a bunch of other products. That's wonderful. We promise that if we're going to sell anything, it's going to be very excellent and of the very best quality. What does that mean for the future? It means that from our perspective at Gencanna, we're just getting started. I think Derek was up here about 45 minutes ago talking about this being the very, very beginning of CBD and hemp. He's actually correct. And because it's the very beginning, it's messy. The regulators haven't figured out how to handle CBD. They haven't figured out how to handle hemp. They're not really sure about this THC stuff. They're not really, they know they don't like it, but they don't know how to quantify it or how to understand it. We're very certain at Gencanna that if we can help our farmers farm and we can provide them with compliant genetics that make their job easier, that allow law enforcement to have great confidence in their crop, this is all that matters. So last year in Kentucky, we farmed almost 1,000 acres with no fences. We're not at all concerned if someone wants to come and do an early harvest, because if they grab our hemp and they decide, as some young people do, they decide that they want to smoke it or something, it's not that great. Our products and our farming commodity isn't meant for a smokable flower product. It's meant to be processed and refined so that we can provide some isolation and provide far better definition of the other minor cannabinoids. So we're here talking about CBD. Everybody's talking about CBD here. What's going to be very interesting over the next few years is the emergence of the rest of the story, the rest of the cannabis plant that is not THC, the other minor cannabinoids, the CBN, CBDV, THCV, CBG, et cetera, et cetera. This is all coming soon near you. The geneticists, our partners at the University of Kentucky, are doing great work at this. And as we remove the THC, we're allowing for a far greater expression of these other minor cannabinoids. So more to come in that regard. The most important thing that we can stress from our perspective and from that of those participating in the entire CBD value chain is compliance. Nobody likes more rules. Nobody likes more regulations. But thank heaven for them, because that's our business and that's our industry. And if you're going to be a long-term player in the CBD space, I would encourage you to get very familiar with strict compliance as soon as possible. It's just easier to play by the rules. It's also a point in time where we can have communications about how those rules are drafted and how they're implemented. It's very important that everyone concerned in the value space, or value chain right now, has a voice and gets out and talks about compliance and talks about the need for some regulatory framework so that law enforcement, legislators, regulators get very comfortable with what is hemp, what is CBD, how do we describe it and quantify it. It's awesome now that we have regulators and law enforcement and analytical chemists who can describe what proper CBD is. What is pure CBD? What is a mixture? These things and these definitions didn't really exist years ago. Very, very significant that we develop and evolve these standards over time. So, what do I mean? I mean that your labels on your products need to have a good number of these symbols as you move forward. GMP, kosher, gluten-free, BRC, British Retail Consortium. That may be the most important label up there, or certification, because it brings with this things like Global Food Safety Initiative, the ability to comply with the very highest of standards is going to differentiate your product. I would encourage you, when you source your materials, to ask people what their certifications are, and then ask them to prove those certifications. Don't show me a piece of paper, show me the audit trail. Show me that it really works. If you're not able to get information like this with a bunch of those symbols from your supplier, you need to seriously consider where you're getting your material. And you need to consider where they're getting it from. With all due respect to a lot of imported CBD from all over the world, you don't really know where it's from. You don't really know what it might have in it. If it's 98%, what's the other 2%? It's vitally important if you're going to make a healthy food product for people. As we move forward, the rest of the agricultural piece of hemp, after we pull the CBD out, is going to develop and evolve. This is vitally important, and this, again, talks about compliance. When you make an extraction, you leave a whole bunch of wonderful biomass behind. This biomass is very likely to become an animal food stock in the next while. It's very significant because there are massive amounts of hemp that have a lot of food, a lot of protein, and a lot of fiber. Very interestingly, in the US, the feed regulators are more concerned about what a cow might ingest than what most humans ingest, at least at this point. So coming very soon, we will see that the FDA and the Animal Food AFCO will start to approve some studies, some pilot programs in animal feeds. This is very significant for your chickens, your pork, and your beef. This also allows all of the plant to be properly used. Everybody in the hemp industry talks about using all the plant and all of its wonderful uses. It's finally starting to happen. So we're grateful for that. So let's just talk about this. Hemp, in our opinion, is all of cannabis. What we mean is that we can do everything with hemp and products derived from hemp that anyone in the marijuana space can do. It's not that hard. We remove the THC to keep everything compliant and everyone happy, because it's just easier to make a large commodity product that we call food. But we know that as we move forward, the farmers are going to dominate. We know that we are growing cannabis outdoors. It's very significant and very important that farmers are central to the growth of the hemp and CBD and other cannabinoid industries as we evolve. The fact that farmers can have a very significant farming income from hemp and cannabis. One day soon, we're going to call this outdoor cannabis. Just doesn't have the THC in it. This all really matters. So we at Gencanna, for ourselves in the industry, feel like we're just getting started. I could try that, but I'm not going to do very well. I would encourage everyone to focus on the entire world. The Americans, in my opinion, have the lead in hemp production. I think Kentucky has the lead in America in compliant, federally legal hemp and hemp-derived products, but it's not going to last for long. The South Americans are coming, the Asians are producing, the Europeans are producing, So the whole world is going to grow and going to change over the next little while. So I would just encourage everyone to use your voice, talk about compliant products, talk about quality, and do whatever you can in order to grow this hemp and CBD market for all of us. So with that, I'm done. Oh yeah, any questions? Any thoughts, or anybody have any questions?
Any questions? I thought it was personally very encouraging, Steve, when you talked about compliance and you put the symbols up there, the amount of cameras that came out in the audience to actually take pictures of those, because I think you made a very good point about compliance being critical for us moving forward in this industry. And we keep with this. This has been the common theme. You'll hear me go on about this all day. The common theme that has happened throughout the whole of this expo is we've been talking about compliance and regulation, and we've also been talking about us being the stewards of our own industry. Has anybody got any questions for Steve? Yes, sir.
Thanks. Hey, Steve. You talked about the compliance of the plant. What about the machinery that you're using to extract everything and put everything through?
That's a great question, and it's not something really that the regulatory structures anywhere have contemplated yet. Where and how do you make an extraction? How and who checks the machinery? Who checks the machines for formulation? All of this regulatory underpinning actually already exists in the U.S. and in federal and state government offices. So the Food and Drug Administration, for instance, inspects us. I think we are the only ones we've been inspected twice by the FDA. So there is a growing move to do this. We saw the CGMP slide or label up there. This is vitally important. It means that you've got good manufacturing processes and that you understand how and where errors and quality problems might happen. So for instance, at Gencanna, we take something like 200 lab samples every day from different parts of our production process. Most of that is in terms of our product manufacturing, so our bulk isolates, our liquid emulsions, our final products for customers. We test it internally an incredible amount of times, and then we test it externally. So the third-party verification of internal results is vitally important. Gord, I hope that answered it. Thank you.
Has anybody got any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. If it were all up to you, 5 years from now, where would you see this industry?
I think 5 years from now, that there's going to be not just the CBD show; it'll be a cannabinoid show. You'll have all manner of new, novel products, modalities for delivery. Right now, the simple tincture is 50% of the market. It's not going to be that way forever. But the thing I'd most like to see is that as this value chain, and everybody's here because CBD can provide a good income in reselling it at this point, I would like to see that value chain tied back to the farmer. One of the mistakes that we've made globally in agriculture and in food products has been that a lot of people, a lot of giant global corporations have made an awful lot of money selling products that came from a farm. Those farmers aren't the wealthiest people in the world. They ought to be better compensated. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I know that if we can start by including in the hemp and CBD space, including the farmers as a bigger part of the value chain, that's the right thing to do. So hopefully we can get there.
Thank you, Steve. I'd just like to say on behalf of the organisers, because I know that Gencanna has been our platinum sponsor, and thank you very much for your support for us for this show, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you just give a round of applause, please, for Steve Bevan for Gencanna. Thank you very much.
Thanks.